God wants you to be with this person. The name will shock you. Don't scroll, listen to this. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because if this title stopped you, if something in your chest shifted even slightly, that was not curiosity, that was recognition. And listen closely, because recognition is how destiny taps you on the shoulder without frightening you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God has been speaking to you quietly for a while now, not through thunder, not through fear, but through repetition, through feelings you can't shake, through moments where one specific person crosses your mind even when you're trying to focus on something else. And your heart needs this right now, because you may have questioned yourself, wondering why that name keeps surfacing, why that energy feels different, why your spirit responds before your logic does. And listen to this truth: God does not confuse his children, he prepares them. And don't scroll, listen to this, because preparation often feels like uncertainty before it feels like clarity. And that's where you are right now, standing at the edge of awareness, sensing that something is aligning even if you can't yet see the full picture. And your heart needs this right now, because alignment doesn't announce itself loudly, it hums beneath the surface, steady and persistent. And listen closely, because this connection is not about obsession or fantasy, it's about divine positioning, the kind that shows up when two souls are being moved into the same frequency before they're fully aware of it. And don't scroll, listen to this, because you may have noticed signs appearing around the same time this person comes to mind, angel numbers like 1111 showing up when you're thinking about the future or praying for clarity. And 11 is not about wishing anymore, it's about alignment. It's the universe saying your awareness is catching up to what's already in motion. And your heart needs this right now, because awareness brings peace, not panic. And listen carefully, because 222 may have appeared when doubt tried to creep in, when you asked yourself if you were imagining things. And 222 is reassurance, balance being restored, the reminder that what is meant for you will not destabilize you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because 444 may have shown up during moments when you felt protected without knowing why, calm even when circumstances didn't fully make sense. And 444 is divine covering, God guarding what he is aligning. And your heart needs this right now, because God does not expose something sacred prematurely. And listen closely, because this message is not saying you must act right now, it's saying you must listen. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the person God wants you to be with is not chosen by chaos, they are chosen by peace. And peace is what you feel underneath the questions. And your heart needs this right now, because you've been through connections that felt intense but unstable, passionate but draining. And listen to this truth: God's connections do not drain you, they ground you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because grounding can feel unfamiliar when you're used to emotional highs and lows. And that unfamiliarity is why the name will shock you, not because it's dramatic, but because it's unexpected in a quiet way. And your heart needs this right now, because God often chooses what the mind overlooks, what the ego wouldn't pick, what past patterns wouldn't repeat. And listen closely, because this is not about who excites your wounds, it's about who supports your growth. And don't scroll, listen to this, because growth-oriented love feels calmer than trauma-bonded love. And your heart needs this right now, because calm used to feel boring to you, and now it feels safe. And listen carefully, because safety is the language God uses when he is involved. And don't scroll, listen to this, because you may have felt pulled inward lately, less interested in chasing answers, more interested in understanding yourself. And your heart needs this right now, because inward movement is how God prepares you to recognize what's meant for you without forcing it. and listen closely. Because the name will shock you not because it's a stranger, but because it's someone you may have underestimated, overlooked, or miscategorized, someone whose presence feels familiar in a way you can't explain. And don't scroll, listen to this, because familiarity does not always mean history, sometimes it means soul recognition, and your heart needs this right now because soul recognition doesn't come with fireworks, it comes with steadiness. And listen carefully, because you may have tried to dismiss this connection logically, telling yourself it doesn't make sense. It's not the right timing, it's not how you imagine things would look. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God does not operate on your imagined timelines, He operates on alignment, and alignment is happening whether you resist it or not. And your heart needs this right now because resistance often comes from fear, not intuition. And listen closely, because intuition feels calm even when it delivers surprising information. And don't scroll, listen to this, because fear rushes, intuition waits, and God's voice is patient, and your heart needs this right now because patience is what protects sacred things from being mishandled. And listen carefully, because this message is not revealing the name yet on purpose, because revelation without readiness creates anxiety instead of peace. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God reveals in layers, first awareness, then preparation, then clarity. And you are in the awareness stage right now, and your heart needs this right now. Because awareness allows you to observe without attachment, to notice without chasing, to trust without forcing. And listen closely, because the universe has been rearranging small things in your life lately, closing doors you didn't fight for anymore, softening attachments you once clung to. And don't scroll, listen to this, because those shifts are making space for something that fits who you are becoming, not who you used to be. And your heart needs this right now because becoming is uncomfortable, but it's also honest. And listen carefully, because this connection will not ask you to shrink, explain, or perform, it will meet you where you are grounded. And don't scroll, listen to this, because grounded love does not compete with your peace, it amplifies it. And your heart needs this right now because you are learning to recognize love by how safe it feels, not how intense it starts. And listen closely, because that shift is spiritual maturity. And don't scroll, listen to this, because spiritual maturity is what allows God to trust you with something meaningful. And your heart needs this right now because trust goes both ways. And listen carefully, because God is trusting you to sit with this awareness without spiraling, without demanding answers prematurely, without trying to control the outcome. And don't scroll, listen to this, because control blocks clarity, and surrender invites it. And your heart needs this right now because surrender does not mean passivity, it means openness. And listen closely, because openness is what allows the name to reveal itself naturally, not through force, but through recognition when the time is right. And don't scroll, listen to this, because when the name becomes clear, it won't feel shocking in a chaotic way, it will feel shocking in a quiet, humbling way, like realizing something was always there but you weren't ready to see it. And your heart needs this right now because readiness changes perception. And listen carefully, because this part ends here not to frustrate you, but to protect you, to let this awareness settle into your body, to allow peace to lead instead of urgency. And don't scroll, listen to this, because what God is aligning for you will not miss you, will not require you to chase it, and will not destabilize you when it arrives. And your heart needs this right now to know that the shock will not come from drama, but from clarity. And that clarity is already beginning to form. Quietly, gently, and intentionally, just beneath the surface. Don't scroll, listen to this, This message is for you. And if you're here for this next part, your heart needs this right now, because this is where the universe begins to confirm what your spirit already sensed in the first moment of awareness. And listen closely, because God doesn't reveal alignment all at once. He reveals it in layers so it doesn't overwhelm you. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because what's happening now is not about curiosity anymore, it's about recognition settling into your body, and your heart needs this right now, because recognition feels calmer than excitement, steadier than desire. And listen carefully, because this is where divine numbers start showing up with precision, not to impress you, but to anchor you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because if you've been seeing 1111 repeatedly, understand this clearly. 11 at this stage is not a wish portal. It's alignment locked in. It's God saying your awareness has caught up to His timing, and your heart needs this right now, because awareness reduces anxiety. And listen closely, because 11 appears when two people are energetically aware of each other at the same time, even if neither has spoken it out loud yet. And don't scroll, listen to this, because 222 has likely appeared when doubt tried to pull you backward, when you questioned whether this was real or whether you were imagining things. And 222 is divine reassurance, balance being restored inside you so you don't rush, chase, or self-sabotage. And your heart needs this right now, because rushing used to be your defense mechanism. And listen carefully, because 333 may have shown up during emotional moments, when you felt a wave of emotion without knowing why. And 333 is divine support, reminding you that you are not navigating this alignment alone. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God does not align connections without surrounding them with protection. And your heart needs this right now, because protection feels like calm, not excitement. And listen closely, because 444 has appeared when you felt oddly steady, even when you expected to feel anxious. And 444 is confirmation that your foundation is strong enough now to hold what is coming. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God does not bring meaningful connections to unstable ground. And your heart needs this right now, because you've done the inner work that makes stability possible. And listen carefully, because 555 may have flashed briefly when you imagined a future that feels different than your past expectations. And 555 is irreversible change, the universe saying you are no longer available for love that repeats old cycles. And don't scroll, listen to this, because this connection is not meant to feel like your past. And your heart needs this right now, because repetition once felt familiar, but now it feels wrong. And listen closely, because 666 may have appeared when your mind tried to spiral, questioning whether faith was turning into fantasy. And 666 is recalibration, God gently pulling your thoughts back into alignment, reminding you that fear does not get to interpret divine movement. And don't scroll, listen to this, because fear always speaks louder than truth at first. And your heart needs this right now, because truth speaks steadily, not urgently. And listen carefully, because 777 is the number anchoring this entire phase. And 777 appears when something has been spiritually sealed, not rushed, not forced, but confirmed on a soul level. And don't scroll, listen to this, because 777 is God saying this is held. And your heart needs this right now, because holding something no longer feels like pressure, it feels shared. And listen closely, because 888 may have appeared when you reflected on equality, effort, and whether someone could truly meet you where you are. And 888 is divine balance restored, the universe saying you are no longer meant to give more than you receive to feel chosen. And don't scroll, listen to this, because being chosen is no longer your goal, alignment is. and your heart needs this right now because alignment feels mutual, not performative, and listen carefully, because 999 may have shown up quietly, signaling completion of an old identity, the version of you who chased clarity, doubted intuition, or waited in emotional limbo. And don't scroll, listen to this, because completion frees energy. And your heart needs this right now because freed energy allows truth to arrive without resistance. And listen closely, because God is not revealing the name yet for a reason. And don't scroll, listen to this, because premature revelation creates fixation, while delayed revelation creates readiness. And your heart needs this right now because readiness is what allows you to receive something sacred without fear. And listen carefully, because the shock will not come from drama, it will come from realization that the person God wants you to be with does not activate your wounds. They stabilize your nervous system. And don't scroll, listen to this, because stability used to feel unfamiliar to you. And your heart needs this right now because unfamiliar does not mean wrong, it means new. And listen closely, because new love under God feels calm first, exciting later, not the other way around. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the person whose name will shock you is not meant to pull you out of alignment, they are meant to meet you in it. And your heart needs this right now because meeting energy feels like recognition, not pursuit. And listen carefully, because God often chooses someone who has been quietly growing alongside you energetically, even if paths haven't crossed clearly yet. And don't scroll, listen to this, because paths align after values align, and your heart needs this right now because values are being refined inside you right now. Patience, discernment, self-respect, and trust. And listen closely, because this phase is testing not your faith in God, but your faith in yourself. And don't scroll, listen to this, because trusting yourself is how you trust God's timing. And your heart needs this right now because impatience once caused you to misread signals. And listen carefully, because clarity does not require urgency, it requires stillness. And don't scroll, listen to this, because stillness is where revelation becomes gentle instead of shocking. And your heart needs this right now because gentleness is how God protects your peace. And listen closely, because the universe is watching how you respond to divine confirmation, whether you chase outcomes or stay grounded. And don't scroll, listen to this, because staying grounded is the assignment. And your heart needs this right now because grounded energy attracts truth without effort. And listen carefully, because when the name finally surfaces clearly, it will not create anxiety, it will settle something inside you that has been waiting quietly. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the shock will be recognition, not surprise, like realizing a puzzle piece was always shaped exactly this way. And your heart needs this right now because recognition feels like peace spreading through your chest, not chaos in your thoughts. And listen closely, because this part ends not with suspense meant to hook you, but with reassurance meant to anchor you, the reassurance that God is not testing you with confusion. He is preparing you for clarity that will arrive without destabilizing you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because what God wants for you will not rush you, will not drain you, and will not require you to abandon yourself. And your heart needs this right now to know that divine alignment always feels calmer than the mind expects, and that calm is already settling in, even before the name is spoken. Don't scroll, listen to this, this message is for you. And if you've stayed this far, your heart needs this right now because this is the phase where the universe stops circling the truth and starts letting it land gently. And listen closely, because what God is doing now is not about revealing information, it's about deepening certainty, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, doesn't panic, but settles into your body like peace you didn't know you were allowed to feel. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because certainty feels very different from excitement, and that difference is important, and your heart needs this right now because excitement used to guide your choices, while certainty now steadies them. And listen carefully, because this is where divine numbers stop acting like signs and start acting like anchors. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because if 1111 keeps appearing, especially when you're calm, reflective, or grounded, understand this clearly. 11 is no longer asking you to wish, it's confirming alignment. It's God saying, you're seeing clearly now, and your heart needs this right now because clarity dissolves anxiety. And listen closely, because 11 appears when awareness exists on both sides of a connection, even if no words have been exchanged yet. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because 222 may be showing up when you feel tempted to second-guess your calm, when you wonder if peace means nothing is happening, and 222 is reassurance that balance is being maintained intentionally, that nothing is slipping away just because you're not forcing it, and your heart needs this right now because forcing used to feel like control. And listen carefully, because 333 may have surfaced when emotions rise without explanation, moments of tenderness, gratitude, or tears that don't feel heavy. And 333 is divine presence, a reminder that God is walking closely with you during this unfolding, not ahead of you, not behind you, but beside you. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because companionship from God often feels like calm reassurance rather than dramatic direction, and your heart needs this right now because reassurance steadies your nervous system. And listen closely, because 444 may have appeared during moments where you chose yourself without guilt, held a boundary without explanation, or trusted your intuition without proof. And 444 is protection, the universe confirming that your foundation is strong enough to hold what's coming. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because God does not bring revelation to unstable ground. And your heart needs this right now because you've done the inner work to stabilize yourself. Emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. And listen carefully, because 555 may have flashed briefly when you imagined a future that looks nothing like your past expectations, and 555 is irreversible transformation, the universe saying, you are no longer meant to repeat old patterns, and your heart needs this right now because repetition once felt familiar, but now it feels wrong. And listen closely, because 666 may have appeared when fear tried to creep back in, whispering that you're reading too much into things or hoping for something unrealistic. And 666 is recalibration, God gently reminding you to bring your thoughts back into alignment, because fear does not get to interpret divine timing. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because fear rushes, while God waits, and your heart needs this right now because waiting no longer feels like punishment, it feels like protection. And listen carefully, because 777 is the number sealing this entire phase, and 777 appears when something has been spiritually confirmed and no longer needs validation. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because 777 is God saying, rest, and your heart needs this right now because rest used to feel unsafe to you, like something would slip away if you weren't vigilant. And listen closely, because what is meant for you cannot slip away. And don't scroll. Listen to this, because 888 may have appeared when you reflected on equality, effort, and whether someone could truly meet you where you are. And 888 is divine balance restored, a confirmation that you are no longer meant to overgive to feel chosen, and your heart needs this right now because overgiving once felt like love. And listen to this truth, love rooted in imbalance always collapses, while love rooted in alignment sustains itself. And don't scroll, listen to this, because 999 may have shown up quietly, signaling completion of an old chapter, not of love, but of waiting, chasing, doubting, and living in emotional limbo. And your heart needs this right now because completion frees energy, and freed energy allows clarity to arrive without resistance. And listen closely, because God is not revealing the name yet, because revelation is not the most important part right now, recognition is. And don't scroll, listen to this, because recognition happens internally before it happens externally. And your heart needs this right now because internal recognition prepares you to receive truth without shock. And listen carefully, because the shock will not be dramatic, it will be humbling. The realization that the person God wants you to be with does not activate your wounds, does not confuse you, does not destabilize you, but steadies you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because steadiness once felt boring to you, and now it feels like safety. And your heart needs this right now because safety is the language of God, not chaos, not emotional whiplash. And listen closely, because God often chooses someone who feels familiar in a way you can't explain, not because of history, but because of resonance. And don't scroll, listen to this, because resonance feels like calm recognition, not pursuit. And your heart needs this right now because chasing once pulled you out of alignment. And listen carefully, because alignment feels like trust, patience, and grounded openness. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the universe is watching how you respond to confirmation, whether you rush to identify the name or stay present with the process. And your heart needs this right now because staying present keeps you protected. And listen closely, because God reveals names when hearts are stable enough not to cling, not to project, not to panic. And don't scroll, listen to this, because panic distorts perception, while peace sharpens it. And your heart needs this right now because your perception is sharpening, not blurring. And listen carefully, because you may already sense that the person is closer than you think, not in distance, but in alignment. And don't scroll, listen to this, because alignment often precedes physical proximity. And your heart needs this right now because proximity without alignment leads to confusion, and alignment without proximity leads to patience. And listen closely, because patience is what allows divine timing to unfold smoothly. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the universe is not testing you, it's trusting you, trusting that you can hold awareness without spiraling. And your heart needs this right now because trust feels empowering, not limiting. And listen carefully, because this part ends not with suspense meant to hook you emotionally, but with grounding meant to steady you spiritually. The grounding truth that what God wants for you will not arrive in chaos, will not require you to abandon yourself, and will not shock you in a way that hurts. It will shock you in a way that makes everything suddenly make sense. And don't scroll, listen to this, because when the name becomes clear, it will feel like peace recognizing peace, not like drama erupting. And your heart needs this right now to stay grounded, open, and ready, because clarity is already forming quietly beneath the surface. And when it rises, it will meet you exactly where you are, calm, aligned, and prepared. Don't scroll, listen to this. This message is for you. And if you're still here, your heart needs this right now because this is the phase where God moves from internal confirmation to external alignment. And listen closely, because alignment doesn't rush into your life loudly. It rearranges things quietly until what's meant to meet you has a clear path. And don't scroll, listen to this, because you may have noticed subtle shifts lately. People fading out without conflict, old attachments losing their emotional charge, routines changing without force, and your heart needs this right now because those shifts are not loss, they are clearance, and listen carefully, because divine numbers intensify when clearance is complete, not before, and don't scroll, listen to this, because if 1111 keeps appearing now, especially when you're calm, reflective, or at peace, 11. 11 is no longer about alignment forming, it's about alignment locking in, God saying, what you're ready for is ready for you, and your heart needs this right now because locked-in alignment feels steady, not urgent, and listen closely, because 222 may be showing up when you're tempted to look for confirmation outside yourself, and 222 is reassurance that balance is already present, that you don't need external validation to trust what God is doing internally, and don't scroll, listen to this. Because 333 may appear when you feel supported without explanation, when something inside you says, I'm okay even without answers, and 333 is divine companionship, God reminding you that He is actively involved, not watching from a distance, and your heart needs this right now because involvement feels like calm presence, not pressure, and listen carefully. Because 444 has likely appeared during moments when you held your ground, honored your boundaries, or chose peace over reaction, and 444 is protection, confirmation that your foundation is now strong enough to receive something meaningful without destabilizing your life, and don't scroll, listen to this, because God does not introduce sacred connections into unstable environments, and your heart needs this right now because stability was built intentionally through patience, reflection, and growth, and listen closely, because 555 may flash when you imagine a future that looks different than anything you've known before, and 555 is irreversible transformation, God confirming that your old relationship patterns no longer apply, that what's coming will not resemble what hurt you before, and don't scroll, listen to this, because unfamiliar does not mean unsafe, it means evolved, and your heart needs this right now because evolution feels quieter than intensity, and listen carefully, because 666 may appear when your mind tries to interpret divine timing through fear, asking, what if I'm wrong, or what if this never happens? And 666 is recalibration, God gently guiding your thoughts back into alignment, reminding you that fear is an outdated lens, and don't scroll, listen to this, because fear always speaks first when control is slipping, and your heart needs this right now because surrender is replacing control, and listen closely, because 777 continues to show up as the seal over this season. And 777 is divine confirmation completed, not something that needs chasing, proving, or forcing, and don't scroll, listen to this, because 777 is God saying, rest, this is handled, and your heart needs this right now because rest used to feel risky to you, like something would fall apart if you stop trying, and listen carefully. Because what's meant for you does not fall apart when you rest, it aligns faster, and don't scroll, listen to this, because 888 may appear when you reflect on mutual effort, equality, and whether someone can truly meet you at your level, and 888 is divine balance. Restored, God confirming that this connection will not require you to overgive, over-explain, or overextend to be chosen, and your heart needs this right now because love that requires self-abandonment is not God's design, and listen closely, because 999 may appear quietly when you feel a sense of closure without sadness, completion without loss, and 999 is the end of an old cycle of waiting, guessing, and emotional limbo, and don't scroll, listen to this, because completion creates space, and space is where revelation enters gently, and your heart needs this right now because God reveals names when the heart is spacious enough not to cling, project, or panic, and listen carefully, because the shock of the name will not come from surprise, it will come from clarity, the realization that this person aligns with your peace, your values, your growth, and your faith. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because God often chooses someone who feels familiar in spirit but unexpected in logic. Someone your mind may have overlooked because they didn't trigger old emotional patterns, and your heart needs this right now because you are learning that safety is not boring, it is sacred, and listen closely, because sacred connections feel calm first, exciting second, not the other way around. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because God does not build relationships on adrenaline, He builds them on trust, consistency, and shared direction, and your heart needs this right now because direction matters more than intensity, and listen carefully, because you may already sense that this person does not pull you away from yourself, they bring you back to yourself. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because that is the clearest sign God is involved, and your heart needs this right now because God's connections do not require you to perform, compete, or prove your worth, they recognize it, and listen closely, because recognition feels like ease spreading through your chest, not tension in your stomach. And don't scroll, listen to this, because ease is not complacency, it's alignment. And your heart needs this right now because alignment allows love to grow without fear. And listen carefully, because the universe is watching how you respond to divine confirmation now, whether you rush to identify the name or remain grounded in trust. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because remaining grounded is what keeps the revelation gentle, and your heart needs this right now. Because gentleness protects your peace. And listen closely, because when the name finally becomes clear, through conversation, timing, or sudden recognition, it will not destabilize you, it will settle you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because settlement feels like, this makes sense, not, this is overwhelming, and your heart needs this right now because sense is how God confirms His will. And listen carefully. Because this part ends not with urgency meant to hook you, but with grounding meant to anchor you, the grounding truth that God is not teasing you with mystery. He is preparing you for clarity that will arrive without chaos. And don't scroll, listen to this, because what God wants for you will meet you where you are calm, aware, and whole. And your heart needs this right now to trust that divine timing is not delaying your happiness, it is protecting it, and that protection is already active, quietly shaping the path until the moment recognition becomes undeniable. Don't scroll, listen to this message is for you, and if you've stayed this far your heart needs this right now because this is the stage where God shifts you from watching signs to walking in trust. And listen closely because trust feels very different from hope, it's quieter, steadier, and deeply grounding. And don't scroll, listen to this, because you may have noticed that the intensity around figuring it out has softened, not because the connection faded, but because certainty has begun to replace urgency. And your heart needs this right now because urgency once felt like passion to you, while certainty now feels like peace. And listen carefully, because this is exactly when divine numbers start appearing less as alerts and more as confirmations. And don't scroll, listen to this, because if 1111 still shows up, it's now meeting you in moments of calm awareness, not longing. And 11 here is God saying, you are aligned enough to stop asking and start trusting. And your heart needs this right now because trust releases pressure. And listen closely, because 222 may appear when you pause and wonder if you're doing enough, and 222 is reassurance that balance is being held without your effort, that what's meant for you does not require constant management, and don't scroll, listen to this. Because you are learning that divine alignment does not need supervision, and your heart needs this right now because supervision once drained you, and listen carefully, because 333 may appear when you feel supported emotionally without explanation, moments where peace settles in your chest unexpectedly, and 333 is divine companionship, God reminding you that you are not carrying this alone, even when nothing seems to be happening, and don't scroll, listen to this. Because stillness is often when the most important things are being arranged behind the scenes, and your heart needs this right now because stillness used to make you anxious, and now it feels safe, and listen closely, because 444 has likely appeared during moments when you chose rest, boundaries, or self-respect without guilt, and 444 is protection, God confirming that your foundation is solid enough to hold what is coming, and don't scroll, listen to this. Because God does not introduce meaningful connections into unstable emotional spaces, and your heart needs this right now because stability is the gift you've been cultivating quietly, and listen carefully, because 555 may flash when you imagine a future that looks nothing like your past, and 555 is irreversible change, God saying you are no longer meant to love the way you used to, and don't scroll, listen to this, because this connection will not activate old wounds, it will reveal healed ones. And your heart needs this right now because healed love feels unfamiliar at first, and listen closely, because 666 may appear when fear tries to reassert control, questioning whether peace means stagnation or delay means denial, and 666 is recalibration, God gently reminding you that fear is an old lens, not the truth, and don't scroll, listen to this, because fear rushes answers, while God reveals them gently, and your heart needs this right now because gentleness is how God protects your nervous system, and listen carefully. Because 777 continues to anchor this season, and 777 is divine confirmation sealed, not something you need to earn or chase, and don't scroll, listen to this, because 777 is God saying, this is already handled, and your heart needs this right now because being handled allows you to breathe, and listen closely. Because 888 may appear when you reflect on mutual effort, partnership, and whether someone can truly meet you where you are, and 888 is divine balance restored. A promise that you will no longer give more than you receive to be loved, and don't scroll, listen to this, because love that requires self-erasure is not God's design. And your heart needs this right now because you are no longer willing to disappear inside connection, and listen carefully, because 999 may show up quietly when you feel closure without sadness, completion without grief, and 999 is the end of an old chapter of uncertainty, not the end of love, and don't scroll, listen to this, because completion creates spaciousness. And your heart needs this right now because spaciousness allows revelation to arrive without shock, and listen closely, because this is the stage where God begins aligning circumstances subtly, not dramatically, conversations lining up, timing softening, paths beginning to overlap naturally, and don't scroll, listen to this, because what God aligns does not require force. And your heart needs this right now because forcing once led you into confusion, and listen carefully, because clarity does not demand attention. It invites recognition, and don't scroll, listen to this, because the name will shock you not because it's sudden, but because it makes sense in a way you weren't expecting, and your heart needs this right now because sense feels different than fantasy, and listen closely. Because God often chooses someone whose presence feels grounding rather than electrifying at first, someone who doesn't trigger your wounds, but reflects your growth. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because reflection can feel unfamiliar when you're used to reaction, and your heart needs this right now, because unfamiliar does not mean wrong, it means evolved. And listen carefully, because evolved love does not arrive to test you, it arrives to partner with you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because partnership requires readiness on both sides, and your heart needs this right now, because readiness has been forming quietly inside you through patience, self-respect, and discernment. And listen closely, because God is not withholding the name to frustrate you, He is waiting until the revelation will land as peace instead of panic. And don't scroll, listen to this, because panic distorts perception, while peace sharpens it. And your heart needs this right now, because your perception is sharp now, grounded, and steady. And listen carefully, because you may already sense that this person does not pull you away from your life, they fit into it seamlessly. And don't scroll, listen to this, because fitting does not mean shrinking, it means alignment. And your heart needs this right now, because alignment is the foundation of marriage, not intensity alone. And listen closely, because God builds futures on shared direction, not emotional chaos. And don't scroll, listen to this, because shared direction feels like ease in decision-making, trust in timing, and confidence in values. And your heart needs this right now, because you are finally confident without being rigid, open without being desperate. And listen carefully, because that balance is rare and sacred. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God trusts you with this awareness now, trusting that you will not cling, rush, or project. And your heart needs this right now, because trust empowers you. And listen closely, because this part ends not with suspense meant to hook you, but with grounding meant to steady you, the grounding truth that God is not teasing you with mystery, He is preparing you for recognition that will arrive gently, naturally, and without chaos. And don't scroll, listen to this, because when the name becomes clear, it will not overwhelm you, it will settle you. And your heart needs this right now to remain calm, open, and aligned, because what God wants for you is not confusing, not draining, and not forced. It is peaceful, mutual, and built to last. Don't scroll, listen to this, this message is for you. And if you've reached this final stretch, your heart needs this right now, because this is where everything God has been whispering begins to settle into quiet knowing. Not urgency, not confusion, but deep inner recognition. And listen closely, because this is the moment where the universe stops asking you to look for signs and starts asking you to trust the peace that has been growing inside you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because peace is not the absence of desire, it is the presence of alignment. And your heart needs this right now, because alignment is how God confirms His will without overwhelming you. And listen carefully, because the divine numbers that once felt exciting or mysterious now feel familiar, almost comforting, like checkpoints reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. And don't scroll, listen to this, because if 11 still appears, it's no longer a spark of longing. It's a nod of recognition, God saying, you see it now. And your heart needs this right now, because seeing clearly brings rest. And listen closely, because 222 may continue to show up during moments when you pause and wonder if you should be doing more. And 222 is reassurance that balance is already being maintained without your effort, that you don't need to manage divine timing. And don't scroll, listen to this, because surrendering control is not losing power, it's trusting God's hand. And your heart needs this right now, because control once felt like safety to you, and now trust feels safer. And listen carefully, because 333 may appear when you feel quietly supported, when a calm confidence settles in without explanation, and 333 is divine companionship, the reminder that God is actively walking with you in this unfolding, not ahead of you, not behind you, but beside you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because companionship from God feels like steadiness, not pressure, and your heart needs this right now because pressure once distorted your decisions. And listen closely, because 444 may continue to appear when you make grounded choices, when you honor your boundaries, when you choose rest instead of reaction. And 444 is protection, confirmation that your foundation is strong enough now to support what is coming. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God does not bring sacred partnerships into unstable emotional spaces, and your heart needs this right now because you've built stability through patience, reflection, and self-respect. And listen carefully, because 555 may flash when you imagine a future that feels calm, steady, and very different from your past. And 555 is irreversible transformation, God confirming that you are no longer meant to love from wounds, but from wholeness. And don't scroll, listen to this, because wholeness changes what you attract, and your heart needs this right now because attraction rooted in wholeness feels gentle, not dramatic. And listen closely, because 666 may show up when old fears try to resurface, whispering doubts like, what if I'm wrong, or what if nothing happens. And 666 is recalibration, God gently guiding your thoughts back into alignment, reminding you that fear is an outdated voice. And don't scroll, listen to this, because fear once kept you alert, but now it no longer gets to lead. And your heart needs this right now because discernment has replaced anxiety. And listen carefully, because 777 is the number that has quietly anchored this entire journey, and 777 means divine confirmation completed, something spiritually settled even before it fully manifests physically. And don't scroll, listen to this, because 777 is God saying, this is already held. And your heart needs this right now because being held allows you to stop bracing for impact. And listen closely, because 888 may appear when you think about partnership, equality, and shared effort. And 888 is divine balance restored, God confirming that this connection will not require you to shrink, overgive, or prove your worth. And don't scroll, listen to this, because love that requires self-erasure is not God's design. And your heart needs this right now because you are no longer willing to disappear inside connection. And listen carefully, because 999 may appear softly when you feel a sense of closure, not sadness, but completion, the end of waiting, guessing, and emotional limbo. And don't scroll, listen to this, because completion creates space, and space is where clarity enters gently. And your heart needs this right now because God reveals names when hearts are spacious enough not to cling, project, or panic. And listen closely, because the shock of the name will not come with chaos, it will come with recognition, the sudden realization that this person aligns with your peace, your values, your growth, and your faith. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God often chooses someone your logic may have overlooked, someone who didn't trigger old emotional patterns, someone who felt steady rather than intoxicating. And your heart needs this right now because you are learning that safety is sacred, not boring. And listen carefully, because sacred connections feel calm first and deepen over time, not intense first and unstable later. And don't scroll, listen to this, because God builds lasting love on shared direction, not adrenaline. And your heart needs this right now because direction brings confidence, not confusion. And listen closely, because you may already sense that this person does not pull you away from your life. They fit into it naturally, supporting who you are becoming, not who you used to be. And don't scroll, listen to this, because that is the clearest sign God is involved. And your heart needs this right now because God's will never costs you your peace, and listen carefully, because peace is how you will recognize the truth when it stands in front of you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the universe has been watching how you handle confirmation, whether you rush, obsess, or stay grounded, and your heart needs this right now because staying grounded is what keeps revelation gentle. And listen closely, because God reveals names when hearts are stable enough to receive them without fear, without fixation, without losing themselves. And don't scroll, listen to this. Because losing yourself was never part of the plan, and your heart needs this right now because God's design includes wholeness, not sacrifice of self. And listen carefully, because when the name becomes clear, through conversation, timing, or a quiet moment of realization, it will not overwhelm you, it will settle you. And don't scroll, listen to this, because settlement feels like, this makes sense, not, this is chaotic. And your heart needs this right now because sense is how God confirms alignment. And listen closely, because this is the stage where trust replaces seeking, and faith replaces fear, and peace replaces urgency. And don't scroll, listen to this, because urgency once pushed you into misalignment, and now patience keeps you protected. And your heart needs this right now because patience is not delay, it's preparation finishing its work. And listen carefully, because God is not testing you with mystery, He is honoring you with timing. And don't scroll, listen to this, because timing protects what is sacred. And your heart needs this right now to know that nothing meant for you is being withheld, it is being positioned. And listen closely, because when everything aligns, your heart, their heart, the timing, the path, the reveal will feel natural, not forced, obvious, not dramatic. And don't scroll, listen to this, because the final confirmation will not come as a shock to your nervous system, it will come as peace spreading through your chest. And your heart needs this right now because peace is the final sign. And when peace arrives, you will know without doubt that God's hand has been guiding this all along, quietly, faithfully, and with your best interest at heart.